Have you been to Cordoba, Spain? If so, this video will spark some good memories. If not, this video will perhaps create a desire to go. Stay tuned as we explore historic Jewish Cordoba. Cordoba was founded by the Romans due to its strategic importance as the highest navigable point on the Guadalquivir River. Because of its location, it became an important port city, primarily used for shipping Spanish olive oil, wine, and wheat back to ancient Rome. The Romans built a massive bridge that crosses the river, and it's still intact today. The Jewish presence in Spain can be traced back to the Roman times, documented well before the advent of Christianity. The Jews lived relatively peacefully under Roman and then later Visigothic rule. Their status fluctuated often with the political and religious tides of the era. However, starting from the 8th century, when the Muslims conquered the Iberian Peninsula, the Jewish culture flourished. Known as Sepharad by the Jewish inhabitants of medieval Spain, it became a melting pot of Muslims, Christians, and Jews, each contributing to a vibrant cultural synthesis. Under Islamic rule, the Jews reached a new economic and social position in society. This period, often called the Golden Age of Jewish culture in Spain, saw Jewish scholars, poets, scientists, and philosophers thrive. Figures like Maimonides and Judah Halevi became luminaries who shaped Jewish thought and influenced the broader intellectual landscape of Europe. If you're walking the Camino Mozárabe de Santiago, you have the option of beginning in Almería, Granada, Jaén, or Malaga. All four of these beginnings converge in Cordoba, then continue to Mérida, where it joins the Vía de la Plata. I've walked this route a couple of times, most recently June and July of 2024. This was the first year I had my new drone, so you'll be seeing some of my drone footage in this video. These roads were the primary routes established by the Romans, then expanded in the Middle Ages, especially during the Muslim occupation of Spanish territory. The importance of these roads increased due to the fact that they were necessary routes for communication between the important ports and the main inland cities. The name of the Camino, Mozárabe de Santiago, gets its name from the people who began walking the route to the tomb of St. James the Apostle. They were Christians who lived in the area and were called Mozarabs, hence the name Mozarabic Way. There are so many places to visit in Cordoba, so unless you're going to be staying a couple of days, you have to be selective. A favorite of mine is the Jewish Quarter. This is one of the best preserved medieval Jewish quarters in all of Europe. It retains the traditional urban layout of a medieval Islamic city with two central intersecting streets surrounded by a labyrinth of smaller streets, which often end in a dead end or narrow alleyways or places where you just can't go anymore. They're always fun to explore. In the middle of the Jewish Quarter, you'll find the only medieval synagogue preserved until today in Andalusia. The synagogue of Cordoba was built in the Mudahar style with the horseshoe-shaped, lavishly decorated archways. Admission to the Cordoba Synagogue is free for all pilgrims with a credential, and it's only 30 cents for everyone else. There's a tzedakah box, which is a receptacle for collecting money that's designated for charity. I always like to leave a couple of euro. The layout of the synagogue follows the Talmud tradition, which states that access to the prayer room is made through a courtyard and a hall without direct access to the street. The patios serve as a transit between the exterior activity and the internal retreat that must be respected in the worship space. It also acted as elements for structuring and framing the communal spaces, including the Talmudic school and the living quarters of the rabbi, who used to occupy the annexed buildings. As you walk through the patio and the small hall, you'll see a set of stairs on the right. This is the access to the women's area. Upon entering, you will see 3 arched windows that are open and look down on the male worship area. This medieval mechitza is beautifully decorated with inscriptions from the Psalms, as well as decorations with plant motifs on the upper parts. The front wall of the synagogue, which faces Jerusalem, is a semicircular arch which houses the Aron Kodesh. This is where the Torah scrolls were kept. Next to this is an inscription that was discovered in 1884 during a restoration project. It gives important information on the synagogue's construction as well as the primary benefactor of the synagogue. As you exit the synagogue and walk toward the Talmudic school, you'll see the mikveh, a pool of water in which Jewish people immerse to effect purity. Throughout Spain, a network of Jewish historical sites have been established. The paths through the historic centers, towns, countrysides, and Camino paths are identified with a special logo. The symbol consists of a small bronze plate measuring 13 by 13 centimeters and represents the outline of the Iberian Peninsula, formed by the 4 letters of the Hebrew alphabet, which spell the word Sepharad, which is Samek, Pei, Resh, and Dalet. Anytime you're in a Jewish historic area in any place in Spain, look down at the pavement or the walls of the buildings, and you will notice these plaques. Another must-see in Jewish Cordoba is just down the street from the Jewish synagogue. It's a statue of the great Jewish sage, Rabbi Moshe ben Maimon, known to the Jewish world by the acronym Rambam, and to the world at large as Maimonides. Born in Cordoba in 1135, during the Golden Age under the Islamic rule, he made significant contributions to medicine, law, philosophy, and Jewish religious thought. He wrote prolifically on these subjects, making him one of Judaism's foremost intellectuals. His philosophical treatise, Guide for the Perplexed, blending Aristotelian philosophy with Hebrew scripture, remains influential even today. His greatest work was his codification of Jewish law, which is called Mishnah Torah, or the Second Torah. The 14-volume work is a logical, systematic codification of Talmudic rulings of Jewish law. The statue is placed within the Plaza Tiberiades, a square named after Tiberias, the city in Israel where Maimonides was buried. The statue is placed in a peaceful garden adorned with plaques inscribed with some of his writings in several different languages, reflecting his global influence. Next time you're in Cordoba, check out these important sites. It's an experience not only in Iberian history, but in the history of the three Abrahamic religions captured in time. Time for music! The selection for this video is by Johannes Brahms, a German-born composer of the mid-Romantic period. He was inspired by the Romani, or the Gypsies, and their music tradition. The harmonies coincide with those of the Jewish folk tradition known as klezmer. What do you think? Here is Hungarian Dance number 5. Please enjoy.